Oh, hello, hello, aloha everyone, and welcome to the Logo My Life. Yes, we're here. It's a Friday. It's Aloha Friday, and we are getting ready to talk about a subject that has become, gosh, I've started seeing it everywhere recently. And actually, this was going to be last week's subject. And then somehow I got into going to see the movie Scream. I'm not going to say how that happened, but yes. And also, oh my gosh. So it's been a fun week. I had a lot of fun though, watching the movie last week. So, but I did miss getting to come here and talk story with all y'all. So just wanted to say first, Rosaline was first in the chat. Hey, Rosaline. And yeah, she came in. As you guys know, we're going to talk about, manipulation tactics, recognizing it in yourself, recognizing it in others, how to address it when you see it. And so the question was, what behaviors do you often see in people or in, God forbid, in yourself? Because I think all of us have been guilty of manipulation at some point in our lives. Okay. It's something that I think a lot of people do, just not realizing sometimes they're doing it. And unfortunately, sometimes realizing they're doing it. But Rosalind had mentioned one of the more manipulative behaviors that I have noticed is the way that some folks act all charming in public, but are really manipulative in the safety of their own house. Oh, hell yeah. I see that all the time. People have the two different sides to them. The side that they show other people and the side that they show in the safety of their own house. It's one reason why you see a lot of times in DV and domestic abuse, where people are like, oh no, that can't be happening in that house. Look how nice that person is. Not quite. Okay, it does not always work that way. So yeah, and then the victim card. And that's something I do want to talk about tonight because people will often use victimhood as a manipulation tactic. And that is something that becomes very easy to pull into because it's hard to find these gray lines that are there at times. DJ H there and gossiping. Oh, hell to the yeah. Gossiping becomes extremely manipulative. So yes, and welcome, my dear. Living Like Phoenix. For those of you who don't know, the Phoenix Project is now known as Living Like Phoenix, or Amber, as we all like to call her. And but if you see her popping in, that is who that be. So hello, my dear. And let's see, Diana, how you doing, my dear? Happy to see you. And I have been, oh gosh, it's been crazy all day today in Hawaii, it seems. Our power went out in Hawaii, east side of the island this morning for about 4 hours. And yeah, it's been crazy. And but it's all back and it came on in time for this. So I was happy about that. And let's see, we got Rosaline back. Let's see, I hate manipulate. Oh, kids are masters of manipulation. In fact, I think a lot of times we learn many of our manipulative behaviors from our childhood. Okay, we learn what works out real well. Amber, Living Like Phoenix, gaslighting, good friend about 10 minutes. See, bingo. And that's actually going to be one of the big ones we look at is gaslighting is a huge avenue into the whole idea of manipulation. And all of these come up in so many different ways. And one of the things that I started doing when I was looking at this subject, I was like, okay, I always love to go to Instagram. I'm an Instagram girl. I don't spend a lot of time, but I'm finding I like it a lot more and more every time. And I came across this one. Hey, that girl, how you doing, my dear? Hope you're feeling good. And I've got a couple of you guys who have been fighting bugs lately, and I'm hoping everyone's feeling better. And oh, Diana, I don't like when parents use manipulation through kids. Yeah. And I found one little quote that I got this huge laugh at when I saw this, but it's so true about manipulation. The quote went, I had so many mental and physical health problems, the doctors didn't know what to do. I took to Google, came across narcissism and realized my problem was being around you. That is exactly what manipulation comes down to as a whole. Manipulation is something that is used heavily by narcissists, as it was mentioned here. Yes, it's used quite often among other kids. Sorry, I'm feeding dogs treats as we're doing. You guys know the drill. They didn't like the pretzel I just gave them. Just dropped it. So, but yeah, narcissists quite often will use manipulation because it's a way of getting what they want. Again, remembering, a narcissist wants to keep the focus on them. Okay, and the good sides of them, not the bad sides of them. So they've got to be able to control things very well. Doesn't mean if you manipulate, you are a narcissist. No. Okay, like I said, I think every one of us here has been involved in manipulating things at one point or another. Okay, again, not always on purpose, not always to hurt someone, but we use, like mentioned, children are masters of manipulation. They know how to use that little smile or that look or to say that exact right thing at the right time to get mom or dad to do whatever it is that they want. So I think it's something that starts, and of course, because it's something in our head, it kind of continues on. Dogs barking, of course, because guess what? They have manipulated me. Yes, your animals manipulate you. I'm pretty sure of that right now. And yeah, totally control is everything to a narcissist. So what I wanted to do today is talk about emotional manipulation and the various tactics and all. But the first thing that I thought, at first I was just going to talk about the tactics. But then it was like, well, I think all of us understand what manipulation is, but do we? Do we recognize it? No, I don't. There's many, many times that I fall for manipulation because I do not even realize someone is manipulating me. I think they care about me. So I'm not even putting one and one together that they really don't care. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, let's just go back for a second to some definitions. What does it mean to manipulate? To manipulate means to control or to coerce another person by artful, unfair, or insidious ways, especially to one's own advantage. And for those of you who've always wondered what the word insidious means, because that is such a cool word. I've always loved that word. It's just something sounds so cool, insidious. Okay, it's a harmful but enticing way of doing things. So if something is insidious, it's very harmful, but it entices you in. So now, we just looked at this. Manipulating is controlling or coercing. Well, what is to control? What is to coerce? Well, control is to not allow another person to control their own action or response by overpowering them in some way. Could be physical, could be emotional, could be, so many different ways it could end up becoming. And coercion is to achieve your own desires by bullying, restraining, or dominating another person. So pulling all those things together, you start figuring things out. I love this. I've been peeking in at what Amber's been saying. My 6-year-old son manipulated me into buying him a toy last night. He picked it up and I said, buddy, you already have one of those. Then he went and picked up a super expensive toy and asked for that. Yeah. Gave him $3 so he wouldn't put down the $30 one. Yeah, exactly. Our kids are freaking smart. They are so freaking smart. It's amazing. And so looking at that brings us to the next type of thing. Okay, so who manipulates? Why do they manipulate? Well, part of the problem with manipulation and why it can sometimes be hard to recognize is it does not come across as just one behavior, okay? When you're dealing with something like domestic violence, not abuse, but violence, it kind of comes across in the title, violence. It's very easy to see, okay? But something like manipulation is not that clear cut. First of all, there are many different types of manipulators. Okay, most of them can probably be put down into 3 different areas. Okay, the first is the master. Okay, these are your people that they're in charge. Okay, they're the manipulator who's going to come in and they're doing everything for your own good. Okay, kind of like that parental, I'm in charge here, your boss type. This needs to be done because I know what's best for everything right now. And they're very, very in your face about everything. Your second type is a savior. Now, this is when we start, the master is easy to see. It's easy to see a master type of manipulator, but the savior and the next type are a little bit harder to recognize because the savior is usually someone who is enabling, and we're going to talk about codependency in the future. I'm hoping maybe next week or so be able to discuss that subject. But they're an enabler, they're a rescuer, they're a messiah. Okay, so that messiah complex, like I'm here and I can save everything. Okay, maybe in the past they saved you from something and now they feel like you owe them a debt of gratitude. Okay, I mean, come on. You should be doing what I've been saying to do. In their mind, this is their thought. Okay, I expect that you're going to do what I'm telling you to do because I did something for you and you owe me now. So they may be coming across the same way as a master. I'm doing it for your own good because you know what? I helped you in the past. And why would I ever do something that wouldn't be looking out for your best interest to begin with? Your last type is the victim. And Rosalie mentioned this herself earlier. Okay, the victim, that poor me type of individual. Okay, they figure out very quickly there is a hell of a lot of power in appearing powerless. No one likes to see someone who is powerless. We want people to feel in control of their lives. We want people to feel like they can solve problems. We want people to feel like they know their own worth. So the best way for this type of person is, well, if I appear powerless, then people are going to give me more of that power. So they're going to use their past. And you know what? Their past may be real. What's happened to them may have been horrendous. And but because of that, they sometimes get stuck in that zone of thinking, well, I've been through this, so the rest of the world still owes me type of attitude. And I agree, Diana. I think codependent people tend to lean towards narcissistic people. I really do think that. I agree with you. I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that. Codependent people, and this is where we're going to talk about it, they feel at their best when they are helping someone else. Well, a narcissistic person just wants everything to be about them. So, of course, it's this thing of, oh, yeah, look, I've been able to help them all this time. Okay, I'm always there for them. I'm always doing this for them. I'm always listening to what they're telling me, things like that. Darren, yeah. Pour me another drink. Heard an Amy, yep. So that is the hardest part, though, also with the victim card, and people use that term, victim card. And I'm speaking this as a survivor. As many people, okay, in this group that joined this channel, we are dealing with mental health crises already, or have in the past, or have survivor or abuse backgrounds or things like that. So there is a survivor card there, that poor me card already there. And we are always fighting to come out on top of that. And that's what gives us our strength, okay, is to be able to say, hey, you know what? That doesn't hold me back. It makes me who I am as I move forward. The problem is in this type of person, because of the fact that they have that, a lot of times people don't want to call them on their shit, on their manipulative shit, because they're going to throw back into your face, oh, well, but it's because of this. And then you start feeling very guilty inside. Because, oh, you know what? Yeah, they've been through so much and everything. And now I'm making fun when you never were making fun of what they were thinking or saying or doing or anything. you're actually trying to help them move forward and become a better person by recognizing this. And that's where we'll be talking about with this. And that kind of does come into the whole thing within all these. Where does all this come from? Where does the manipulative behavior come from? And, I'm going to use Rosalind and my favorite word, domestication. Okay, what we grow up with as children is teaching us our behaviors for the future. If we grow up knowing how to, say you have a family and your parents are always going to fall for certain types of behavior from you, you're going to continue trying those behaviors as you get older, potentially. So I think domestication has a lot to do with it. In addition, you do run into things. If you're coming from a family that has a very narcissistic background and you're dealing with all of that type of enabling behavior, it's creating an enabler in you who then falls in under the other side. So see, I think that's one reason why it's so important for us to be able to look at our past and accept our past. Because you know what? It's made us who we are. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. But it doesn't mean we're stuck in that area. It just helps us to look at what is going on in our life so we can move forward. And that's what we've always been doing here is we've been looking at everything and trying to figure out, okay, now yes, I'm recognizing, hello, Robbie. And how do my behaviors, I myself, okay, as I've been doing this, I've been looking, okay, where am I being manipulative in my own life? Okay, and look at things like, okay, when I'm working around the house or dealing with people, hello, Ying, ing. I always say that wrong. Sorry, my dear. Hello, my dear. And thanks for coming. And whoops, sorry, just dropped a whole big treat for the dogs, so they'll be happy. So one of the things for us, if we are going to start looking at ourselves, if we are going to try to always, which is what the whole goal of this whole Friday series is about, is looking at ourselves, trying to find ways that we can better ourselves and also recognize things that may be affecting us in life. Hey, Jessica. And so the first thing we need to be able to do is recognize the manipulative behavior, whether in other people or ourselves. And there's a number of different types of manipulative techniques that people would actually use. Thank you, Rosalind, for that one. That one's awesome. Thank you for putting that in. So the first one I wanted to bring up that a lot of people who are manipulative will do is they're very good at moving your goalposts, okay? They're working, okay, you're talking with them and they're always changing the expectations just so you can't meet them. And the whole idea of manipulation is to keep control over you. So if you reach the end goal, then you know what? It's not coming together. They could lose control over you. So many times a person who is manipulative will continue looking for other ways to change that goal. So for example, okay, take as an example, someone who is always complaining to their significant other or family member or whatever, saying that, well, you know what? You just need to focus more on me. I feel like you're not ever paying attention to me, that you're just you're focused on everything else in the world and not handle. So what do you do as a person who's trying to better yourself? You're like, okay, I need to focus on them. Okay, so I'm spending more time with them, talking with them, trying to be closer to them. Yet then all of a sudden they change it all. Well, you know what? You need to be more independent. I mean, you're too independent on me. I mean, you need to start becoming more independent and do things without me all the time. So there's always, no matter what you're doing, often a manipulator is going to be pushing you to something else. Because as long as they can keep that control over you, they've got exactly what is needed at that point. And another area that they tend to do is they're very focused on generalization. Okay, it's very hard to manipulate people with specifics. Okay, generalization really becomes their friend. Okay. They will use extreme terms. So extreme terms mean generalized terms to make a point about something. So the idea, all people who do this are bad, or all people who are like this are bad. Okay. We look at this, manipulation happens everywhere. Okay, one of the things we've talked about quite often recently is when we're on YouTube and the ability to talk to anyone and be friends with anyone and stuff like that. People tend to lump people in groups. No, we're not groups, we're individuals. And generalization will be very good about saying, yes, that group there is bad. You don't want to associate with that group. That group consists of many different people. But by manipulating everyone into thinking, pointing out a couple different people in that group, and then anyone who relates with that group is now lumped in with that group, whether they have anything to do with it whatsoever. So that's something you will often see. Is someone who is manipulating you, or if you're manipulating other people, you will find yourself often trying to lump things together into one big group. The same thing outside of that. Okay, you can get into the thing about, okay, maybe all people who are not educated will never be able to live successfully on their own. I'm making up shit as I'm going right now, okay? But that's what it comes down to. You find a group of people and then you connect them to something that's going on. And manipulation at its finest is making you see people through their lens. And if they can put it in with the group, then they don't have to change your view on every single person. They just change your view on the whole group of people. The next thing, technique-wise, is changing of a subject. So many times when a person is manipulating things, like we said, they're narcissists, heavily narcissistic behavior. And a narcissist does not want to see the bad that they do. Okay, they want to be focused on everything else around them and not them. So if you start doing what is needed and then all of a sudden maybe you make a comment to them, they're going to try to deflect the situation especially if that comment's about them. Okay, immediately they're going to start up with the comments such as, well, let's stay focused on the real issue right now, kind of a gaslighting behavior. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about right now. Okay, you're zeroing in on what it is that they were trying to say to begin with, but it's not in the way they want you to zero in. Okay, because the way that you're zeroing in is actually potentially opening their eyes to something in themselves that they don't like seeing. So the easiest way for them to deal with that is to change the subject quickly. Okay, whether it is saying, okay, yeah, that's not what I was talking about, or let's just stay focused on the real issue or something like that. Okay, or totally changing the issue. If they realize they're up shit's creek right now, they may completely change the issue, okay, on you. So keeping your eye out for that type of behavior. And if you do come and try talking with them about something and trying to keep it on the subject, you'll notice they'll keep trying to push and change the subject. They may get more and more and more upset at the fact you are trying to keep that subject, and you're not listening to them as they try to change it. But that's also part of, as we move forward and we look at how we can address manipulation, that's part of what you're going to be doing, is letting them realize the manipulation is not working anymore. And so it ties in with the whole idea of gaslighting. And that's the other one, okay? And Amber mentioned this one. Gaslighting is a huge way of manipulating people. I mean, we see this one all the time, okay? And a lot of these things you're noticing, they kind of dovetail with each other because many of them do. They're related, okay? The way people focus on things. Jessica, narcissists always say it's someone else's fault, never theirs. Bingo, bingo. And if they can't do that by changing the subject or by generalizing, then they're going to start doing the good old gaslighting. They're going to start doing that and saying, as you point out an issue, they're going to all of a sudden say, well, that didn't happen. No. You're imagining that. That's not how it is. So yeah, definitely these things that we start taking a look at our own reaction to them. Okay. Or ourselves. I'll be honest. I've caught myself doing this at times. Okay. If I don't want to look at things, that's why I'm saying manipulation is something that all of us do accidentally at times. And some of us do it on purpose. And it's recognizing that. So the next thing I wanted to mention, and this needs its own video completely, is passive aggression. Passive aggressive behavior can be extremely manipulative. Okay. In a certain group, especially that victim, the third type of category I mentioned, they don't want to come straight out and piss people off or something like that. So they find these little passive aggressive ways of saying what they want to say. Okay. Basically, it's when you indirectly negative feelings are expressed instead of discussed. So you're feeling these, thank you, Jessica. And you're feeling these feelings inside of you. Okay. And they are negative feelings. And whether you're afraid of those negative feelings, whether you don't want to share those because you don't want other people to see you have the negative feelings, or perhaps you just don't have the ability of your own to stand up and say, my feelings matter, whether they're negative or positive. You start acting on the negativity. Okay, you start dropping little comments here or there. We all see the passive, oh my gosh, on YouTube, the passive aggressiveness on YouTube is crazy. The area that I live in general, okay, it's very cultural for us out here to be very passive aggressive. In fact, we joke about it all the time. Okay, our games that we play, when I do game day, we play co-op games all the time because none of us want to go versus one against the other. Okay, it's always this co-op idea, and I think it's tied to this idea that the passive aggressive feel of not being able to stand up and say, oh yes, this is how I feel and I don't agree with the way that you're doing this. So you try to find your way of speaking up and manipulating the behavior without just coming straight out and saying what you want. Okay, so it's definitely something that, yeah, this whole subject of passive aggression, along with codependence, sometimes I find those two are very, very close to each other. I am sorry, someone just rang the doorbell. I'm going to mute for just a second. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry, gang. UPS delivery never fails, and I'm alone at home right now, so I knew the dogs would bark until I opened the door to let them know there was no one here. So back to life. But yeah, I think passive aggression and codependency a lot of times go together because of the fact that people, when they are codependent, you need other people to make you happy. And but if you tell people how you feel in a negative way, then you're worried it's going to affect that get happiness. So what you do instead is you react passive aggressively. Oh, yes. And I was like, oh, there we go. Sooner or later, I knew it was going to happen one of these times. So the next way that a lot of people will deal with manipulation, you will find manipulators who just downright lie. Okay. First of all, Jessica, I agree. You will not lose someone who is supposed to be in your life for being honest with yourself. I love that. And that's a lesson I'm learning. I myself have always had a problem speaking my truth if I thought it might hurt the other person. I've had a really rough time, and I'm learning to come to terms with that and learning how to approach them and say, no, I really think there's a problem with this and we need to look at this differently. In fact, Miss Amber's been part of that solution because she'll come out, given her permission to tell me when I'm not speaking my truth the way I should be speaking and letting people run over me. And also, so lying and denial. Okay, when someone uses manipulation, a lot of times will lie to cover up the truth. Thereby, it manipulates your feelings. Okay, so they want you to feel a certain way, perhaps. They want you to be mad. Okay, let's take that one. They want you to be mad at another group of people or at another person. Okay, whether that's work, home, friends, YouTube, whatever. They don't want you to be happy with this other person. So they make up stories to get you to have that same emotion and feeling towards the person they don't want you to feel good about. That's something we see a lot. That's why I tell people always, okay, check into things. Always do your research. Always ask people. If I've got two friends who are fighting out here, I will go to both of them now. Okay, at one time I wouldn't. At one time I felt by going to the other person, my other friend, and saying, hey, is this true about so-and-so? I didn't want to do that for a while, and I could never figure out why. And it dawned on me the reason why is I was worried I was going to upset my two friends. Because if I'm going and talking to so-and-so about something the other person has said about them and their actions, then I could cause the two of them to start not liking each other. So I would stay quiet about it. But then I had to come to terms in my own head, who do I believe? And if I had just gone and talked to the other person, it would have made a huge difference. And hey, Kelly. Yes, Amber, you don't like it when people, I'm getting better on it. Slowly but surely getting better. And I will do that now. I go and I talk to them. If I find something here on YouTube where I'm hearing people talk about other people and what's happened, I go and I do my own research. Doing my own research does not include just going and watching someone else's video of 10 minutes showing that one portion. No, you got to look at the whole thing. You got to pull things into context. Because unfortunately, a lot of times when someone is using this type of manipulation, a lot of what they're coming down to is context. If they can pull a certain thing out of context, then you know what? They can manipulate those emotions. So I do my own research a lot more now than I ever used to do before. And if a friend gets mad at me for researching, you know what? Then I have to wonder about why that friend's so worried about me researching things. Because I believe them. I just want to make sure that I'm not, because people will say, and I had that happen actually. I asked a friend once, okay, I'm hearing this about you. Can you just clarify this for me? I didn't say, can you tell me, is it true or not? I just said, can you just clarify what I'm hearing? Okay, you're my friend and I'm here for you, but I need to have some clarification. They're like, well, if you were my friend, you wouldn't make me clarify it. Well, that's manipulation right there. When a person tells you that, that's manipulating. Right there, it was that person trying to tell me, well, if you were my friend, you wouldn't ask me to tell you whether or not what so-and-so is true. You would just take it for blank value. And that is manipulative. And I did not see it at that time. But now I'm starting to recognize that manipulation that was going on there. Because a true friend would be like, no, thank you for coming to me with that concern. Okay, yeah, no, there is no truth to this whatsoever. Or, oh, you know what, maybe they heard this and they're running with that or something like that. Because they would trust me. Okay, because that's what friendship, hey guys, come here. That's what that friendship is about, is trust, respect. Okay, not blind, yes ma'am, no ma'am. It's about being there for each other and understanding. Yeah, definitely, Jessica, it happened to you too. Yeah, it's something I think happens to a lot of us. We're told just blind faith. No. Respect, trust, friendship is so deep. My friendship with you will last through things like that. Because you know what? It's also showing that you respect and trust me enough to make my own decisions. And that means the world to me. So, and yeah, Kelly, you want your friends to come to you if they hear something. Because you know what? Again, there's so much manipulation and lying and stuff like out there. It helps you put a stop to it. And so the next thing that I find happening quite often, oh my gosh, yes, all the time, is targeting insecurity. So say you have a friend or a significant other or anyone anywhere, and they know your insecurities. They know, because you know what? Friends know. Friends know what make each other click. They know what is important to you and what's not important to you. So if someone is going to manipulate, a lot of times they will look at what makes that person tick and what makes that person worried, okay, and what they can sway the person over with, and they will target that insecurity. They will zoom in on that insecurity because whether a narcissist or not or whatever else, okay, if they can get you feeling bad, if they can get you worried about your decision-making capability, your ability to stand up for yourself and say, that doesn't make sense to me. And on having to then explain further, which is what most people would do. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't understand why you're saying this to me right now. Well, a manipulator doesn't want to keep explaining. They want to stop it right away. They don't want to explain. So they're going to start looking for other ways to do it. And one of them is targeting your insecurity. Is there a way that they can connect you with what they're saying about the other person or with whatever it is they want done? Okay, targeting an insecurity here. I'm going to joke around a little bit with what Amber was saying. So her child yesterday was able to manipulate a brand new toy that they already had at home. And now, what if instead of playing the game of, oh, but here's an expensive toy, what if they had done that? I've been watching Nanny, Super Nanny lately. And oh my gosh, you can learn so many lessons by watching that show. I don't have kids, but oh my gosh, you can learn so much. And one of the things I was noticing there is how often a child will tell their mom or dad, I don't love you anymore. You're mean, mom. You're this. You're a horrible daddy. I hate you. That's what this type of manipulation is. It's targeting that insecurity that mom or that dad has, where all of a sudden you're starting to question yourself. Oh, they don't love me anymore. I want them to love me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll buy that toy for them because then they'll love me all of a sudden. I know that's not the story on how it happened, but that would be a perfect explanation here. And another thing is just plain out old ignoring. So they get to a point where you're asking them to please explain something. Is it Kelly's birthday? Happy birthday, Kelly. Hawalila now, my dear. Oh, tomorrow. Okay, so hawalila now, my dear. Happy birthday. Everyone, happy birthdays in chat for our dear Kelly. And I hope you have an awesome one. So ignoring is, by ignoring, a person cuts off all ability to communicate. So a person, you're talking about something and the manipulators talk, and at some point you step back and you ask questions to delve further into something. They don't want to go any further, so they ignore. Okay, whether they stop talking to you or they change the subject into one of these other ways or something like that, they start ignoring. They don't want to talk to you for one reason or another, because what happens then is no one likes that sudden drop of communication. Because a lot of times we, in our heads, see the drop of communication, that instant talk, boop, nothing. We see that very negative. We see that as they're mad at me. We see that as I've done something wrong. Okay, and it's almost always something about ourselves that we are seeing we're doing it wrong. And you may try to keep coming back talking to the person, but the person doesn't want to talk anymore and they're refusing to talk. They're using that a lot of times to say, well, you know what? I'm not going to talk to you until you agree with what it is I've been trying to say. And I've seen that happen. I've seen this happen many times. Okay. And this is one of the ones that I think a lot of us do without actually recognizing it's a manipulation tactic. We shut up and we shut down initially, maybe because we don't want to fight or stuff like that. And then over time, we start realizing, well, it also slowly kind of gets our way, because quite often that other person is going to kind of just cave in. Hey, guys, no, come here. That was nothing. And there's the bird. I was wondering when that I gave him, about 3 almonds earlier. So, hey, guys, here. Okay. So one of the others I wanted to talk about is conspiring. Okay, this is when people connect up together to gang up on someone to manipulate them into a certain behavior or thought process. We see this quite often, okay? It happens a lot here when I'm talking about, okay, the groups on YouTube or stuff like that. Okay, well, if we get together and we kick so-and-so out of the group and we all sit there and we gang up on them, or we do this together and we start making fun of this or that, it starts building into this idea of using groupthink to make someone else do what you want. And because no one wants to be the individual on their own. None of us want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. I don't like it when I'm the only one who's thinking a certain way, because then I do start wondering, wait, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm wrong. Even though I know down deep, okay, and I really feel down deep, I could even have someone on the sides telling me, no, you're totally okay. What you're doing makes total sense. But if everyone else is saying this against me, I do start questioning it. Okay. Love that, Amber. Off running, I say, go to your room. Suddenly it isn't her idea to go to her room anymore, and she doesn't. Yep. It's amazing how you can also use some of this stuff. It's amazing. Kids use it, and then we can find ways around. And if you understand how they're manipulating you with this stuff, you can find ways to work with it too, which is what's awesome. Another thing people will often do is, and this goes with the conspiring too a lot of times, is evoke fear. Okay, if you are in a group of people who's trying to get another person to do something, okay, you're going to start playing with this idea of fear, because that person's going to start potentially having fear, emotional fear. Doesn't have to be fear of being hit or anything like that. It could be fear of retaliation. It could be fear of so many different things. We oftentimes think of fear as a physical thing in this type. Yes, it could be. The person could actually be manipulating through evoking fear of something physical happening. But it could also be evoking that fear of being alone, that fear of being wrong, that fear of not being loved, that fear, you can list out all the different fears that people have. And then slowly those fit in here. And by playing on that fear that they know that person has, okay, if say someone is trying to get to me and they're trying to get me to agree to something that I don't agree with, and they start playing with things and they know down deep, I have a fear of not being loved. And if they can find a way to make it sound like, well, you know what, you keep that up, no one's going to love you, no one's going to care, no one's going to want to spend time with you, you're going to be on your own, there's a much better chance I'm going to start falling for it. And so always keeping an eye out for that. This next one kind of goes with generalization, and it's looking at stereotyping. Someone who is manipulating someone will often dismiss things based off of a stereotype. They're very, again, like generalizing things, they're going to be very focused on stereotyping something. Okay, maybe they want you to, they're playing that independence game that I talked about earlier, where at first they want you to focus more on time with them, and then all of a sudden, no, you need to be more independent. They might start playing stereotype games. Okay, well, you know what happens once you are independent, people really start thinking much more about you, and they think you got all your shit together and you're going to be so much more successful in life. Well, does independence necessarily mean that? Not all the time, but people think it does. Sometimes independence actually means you're so cut off from other people that you cannot connect with them. But by stereotyping it that way, it becomes a major issue for them. Maybe they start looking and describing things on basis of gender or socioeconomic level. Okay, they may start trying to keep you from hanging out with a group of friends, okay, based off of their education level or their socioeconomic level. Maybe it's the type of thing that, well, you know, you don't want to hang out with those kids at school, honey, because, you know, people who go around smoking cigarettes. Okay, sorry, I'm an 80s girl. People who go around smoking cigarettes, you know, they're going to be in trouble with the law all the time, and they're going to be this and they're going to be that. They start stereotyping it to pull you away from doing what you're thinking about doing. So the next thing is just, and probably one of the last I really wanted to bring up, is actually emotional abuse. A person will use emotions to manipulate. And if you look at all of these, every single one of those things that we just brought up with manipulation comes down to playing around with your emotions, playing around with your fears, playing around with the ability, okay, being left alone, okay, targeting insecurities, all these things, it comes down to emotional. Okay, play with the emotions, manipulate the emotions so that you in the end come and join them because it's better than being on your own or thinking in a different way than that person who often, like we said, is a narcissist. They are everything in the world, so why would you not want to be with that person? So it's something we see. And like I said, okay, I guarantee you most of you guys, as we went through there, probably thought of a case or two where you're like, oh, yeah, I've done that before. Yep, I forgot about that. I've done that before. I did that on multiple. There were a couple different ticks there. Not that I ever planned on doing it, but I realized the behavior that I was doing maybe towards my mother or something like that was slightly manipulative. I just didn't realize it was at the time. So on one level, it's important to know those things because you can recognize what's going on with yourself. On the other hand, though, you can see when it's happening to you so you can start addressing it because there is an impact when you're being manipulated all the time. Okay, we know what it's like. Okay, we know all of these, but there is a major impact. Okay, first of all, and I'm just real quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just some of the actual physical and emotional things that can be tied to manipulation. Okay, first is just the increased mental stress. Okay, physical fatigue of all the time worrying about what it is the person is saying to you. Okay. And having to guess, is this right? Is this wrong? Okay. Questioning yourself, questioning your own well-being. Okay. Self-worth, things like that. Also depression or anxiety. If someone is telling you over a long period of time, okay, that they're changing the subject where you can never quite meet what they're wanting because they're always manipulating to keep them on their level, not your own level, you're always on the edge, anxiety all the time. Okay, is what they're saying going to affect my friendship with my friends? Oh my gosh, am I falling up for the wrong side? Am I falling for someone who is wrong to begin with? Okay, but why would they be saying that? They care about me. You start developing this anxiety, this depression, because you're always questioning what's going on, because it's either you or it's them. And neither of those is a good feeling, no matter what. It also gets you just questioning your self-confidence. You start doubting yourself. Okay, if someone is always telling you you're wrong, okay, or if someone is always telling you, oh, don't trust that person, or don't trust that person, or, oh, no, only me, I know what's real, no one else knows what's real, you start questioning your own self-confidence. Okay, you start doubting your ability to make those gut reaction decisions because you know what? This person is telling you you can't make a decision for yourself, that you don't know how to see what supposedly is right in front of your eyes. Yet you're looking and you don't see it. But there's got to be truth to it. Yeah, there's got to be truth to it. So you question yourself all the time. And then through that, you actually start having a threat to your own sense of reality. Okay, because over time, if you're always worried that what you're seeing is not what's real, you start questioning your ability to read people. Okay, that's always something I feel I can read people fairly well, but I've had some people who have made me seriously question my ability to read someone. And so they start threatening that sense of reality that I have about myself. And then from there, I start getting that feeling of shame, feeling of helplessness, like, gosh, I can't do any of this on my own. I mean, this person has to be telling me all the time what to do because it seems like every time I try to make a decision on my own, they're telling me that I made the wrong decision. And yeah, Jessica, if you hear it enough, you start to believe it, good or bad. And it is true. It's both sides, good or bad. Because sometimes they're going to be trying to pull you in on a good side. They're going to try the other side of things. And that's all of us. I firmly believe every single one of you guys here have the ability in your heart to have that gut reaction. And that's why it's important for us to be able to understand that and be able to come together and say, yeah, you know what? I think there is something off here. And believe yourself when you hear that. So it can lead to the just unhealthy behaviors. Okay. If you're questioning yourself all the time, if you're always questioning yourself, if you're always feeling like someone is telling you you're wrong, you're going to start coming up with behaviors that help calm yourself. And many times hey, Pia, come. Okay. Many times those behaviors are extremely detrimental to yourself. Okay, whether it's not sleeping, or maybe you find yourself drinking to deal with things, or doing drugs, or, okay, people will start, okay, I've seen kids, especially when they're in this type of position, they'll do things like they'll start picking at stuff, okay, or biting your fingernails, or all these other things are ways that you start dealing with the emotions that are building up inside of you. So the question comes up, how do you deal with this though? Okay, so you're dealing on a day-to-day basis, you're hearing all this stuff. How do you deal with it? And so there are ways you can do it. And a lot of the stuff we've talked about in the last couple months come together to help that out. First of all, The most important thing is just be aware and be open-minded on everyone. You know, people do try to help you. And some of what they say may be totally truthful. Okay? Or there may be elements of truth, elements of falsehood. But you're not going to know any of that. Hey, Susan, love you, my dear. And you're never going to know any of that if you close your mind off to anything. That's one reason why I will never close my mind off to anything. I will see good in even the worst situation because there is good in everyone. I believe that. I'm sorry. I believe that. Even my abusers, there was good in them. There had to have been something good about them. And I had to believe that. So be aware, be open-minded about what is happening around you. Being open-minded also means recognizing, you know what? You may be falling for something also. Because it's very, it's not just the narcissist who doesn't want to see themselves at fault. None of us ever want to see ourselves falling for something. None of us want to see that. All of us want to see that we're catching things and we're on top of stuff and all that. When we're all human, we're all going to make those mistakes. And we need to be open to that. One of the things I did want to bring up at this, because as I was going through this, one of the questions that popped into my head is the difference between when a friend is talking to you, is it to manipulate or is it to help? If that makes sense. Because sometimes a friend who's coming to you with negative information, you immediately want to go and jump to the thing, well, no, I don't have any problems here or anything like that. Okay, so they must be manipulating me. And how do you tell the difference? And there's actually a name for the difference, okay? There's manipulation and there's exhortation. So exhortation is when someone comes to you and they speak truth to you for your benefit, but they know it's your decision to make. So I mentioned earlier, Amber has permission to come to me when she recognizes that I'm allowing people to drive right over the top of me and just take it. She has permission, and she and I've talked about this, to come to me and say, hey, local girl, pay attention to what's going on because no, this isn't right. And she's coming to me, exhortation here, to say, local, someone is running on top of you right now. It's not good. It's something you've got to look at because it's not allowing you to be the best person that you could be. Okay, but the difference between that and manipulation, on the other hand, is coming to me and telling me all that stuff, but insisting, first of all, they're doing it for their benefit, not your benefit. And number two, they demand you act on it. Okay, exhortation knows that it's your decision in the end. Amber knows it's up to me in the end whether I finally stand up and say, enough's enough. Please stop doing that now. Versus just continuing allowing it. So yes, you want your friends to be able to have that discussion. That's why I did want to address this, because I know a lot of people are like, well, but then how can I go talking to my friend and kind of help them grow and stuff like that? You do it based off of your expectations. A true friend comes to someone and not using manipulation, using true care and love, says, I've noticed this issue with you. I think it's something you may want to look at and make a decision for yourself as to what to do. They're doing that because they care about you. Amber cares about me if she does that. She's not coming up to me and saying that as a way to help her. Okay, it truly is about local, this is something that I see is hurting you. Okay, whether you recognize it or not. And then she backs off and she lets me do whatever it is that I want to do with it. Do I take it to heart and change? Or do I just say, well, I don't agree with you. Sorry, I don't agree with you this time. And someone who's manipulating is going to come to you and say things like that. Okay, yeah, you're letting people, okay, hey, local, you're letting people run over you. You know that? I mean, other people are running over. I'm here trying to help you and everything, but you're just letting all these people do this. You just continue hanging out with them and you continue allowing them to do this to you. And I may come up and say, okay, no, sorry, Amber, no, I don't agree with that. They're like, no, but you don't get it. And they keep pushing and pushing because they're not going to be happy until you finally say, okay, I agree with you. Yeah, you're right. That's what's happening. Hey there, Christy. So not sure if that helps people in understanding the difference between manipulation and truly trying to be someone's friend and helping them through a process. And the next thing important to do is just trust your instincts. Guys, you know down deep. You know that feeling. You know that feeling when something someone is saying is wrong. And sometimes that changes over time. I've had times where initially I had a wonder and I questioned it, but I just didn't have enough proof at the time for myself. So I would not pull a trigger on a belief, a relationship, or whatever. I just kind of sat there and I kept watching and gathering my information. And over time, I saw more information. I saw patterns. Okay, things like that. And you're like, okay, last week I was 10% sure. This week, now I'm 30% sure. Another week goes like, oh gosh, wow. I didn't expect that. Yeah, this is really, I just kept trust those instincts. Keep listening to those instincts. Keep doing your research. Keep looking at those things. Can you trust, can you speak to them honestly? Okay, honestly, someone who is manipulating you is not going to want to talk to you very honestly, open. Now, they may placate you with a comment back. But, and that is a very good part. A lot of people will say, okay, in a DV type relationship or domestic abuse or anything like that. Well, I talked to them and they said, yeah, they recognize that behavior and all that, but they never changed. Well, they're placating you too. And that does happen. So can you speak to them honestly? Do they really listen to you? Because if the answer in your head is, no, I really can't speak to them honestly without fear of how they're going to react. If I tell them this, then they're going to react negatively this way. Chances are you're dealing with a manipulative behavior going on right there. And when you see that happening, you really honestly, your number one thing you need to do, yes, Jessica, your gut's not going to lie. And yes, Rosaline comes up with the greatest links. I agree. And thank you, Rosaline. You are the bomb. And good old B word, boundaries. You got to lay back on your boundaries. You've got to set those boundaries and you have to enforce them. And I'm going to repeat, healthy boundaries. One of the things I find a lot of people do is they will cut people out of their lives, or they'll make a decision on something and everything. They're like, oh, that's my boundary. That's my boundary. But if they step back and look, they would realize it might not necessarily be a healthy boundary. Again, remember, there's the difference between a healthy boundary and a boundary that is in place to help you escape. Okay. And as compared to being the best person you can be, if that makes sense. It's a really hard, fine line to find, but it is there. So once, okay, you've made the, hello, Tracy, your 21-year-old daughter was great at manipulation until mom said, yep, boundaries are your key. And that's why at some point I need to do some more videos on boundaries. There are some. But coming together with your boundaries and standing by them and learning how to stand by them is so important for you. So at some point you've made the decision, you have your boundaries set, you've stood up to them, they come at you with their manipulation and you have said something, okay, telling them, nope, sorry, no. And so you've put a stop to it. So what happens? Because this is the problem. This is where so much can start falling apart, because how do you deal with it once it happens? Well, first of all, there's different ways, just like there's different types of manipulators, there are different ways people could potentially react. The first way is the way we all hope everyone reacts when you bring it to their attention. Okay, you go up to them, you say, I'm going to pull a name, Mary. Okay, Mary, I recognize what you're saying right now, but I think I don't agree with what you're saying. I don't think it is true. Okay, for me, maybe it is for you, but for me, it is not the truth. And I respect your way of thinking, but it's just not my truth. And, well, some people are going to be amazing. They're going to get upset. And chances are they're going to get upset. 99.9% people are not going to be happy when something is pointed out to them where they're failing at something. In fact, I'd almost want to say 100%, but I never say 100 for anything in life. And they're going to be upset for a time. But then hopefully they step back and they think about what you told them. They think about how you explain maybe it is their truth, but it's not your truth. Okay, they begin to realize maybe my way of approaching things is not correct. But yes, this person is my friend. They're here to try to help me be the best person I can be. And they start making changes. That's the way we all wish people would react. And some people are going to react that way. Some people, hey, Cassie, Pia, come. Okay, some people are truly going to react that way. And however, there's another group, and probably a little larger of a group, they're just going to become a worse version of themselves. Okay, they're not going to accept it. Okay, most of these people, like we said, are narcissists. They're not going to change their behaviors overnight, if at all. And they're going to get upset like before, and they're going to potentially become a worse version of themselves. Where maybe they were earlier the victim type of manipulator, now maybe they're going to start becoming the in charge master version also. They might start combining different types of manipulation together. And because they're going to dig in, and they're going to dig in deep. Then you got the last group. And this, thank God, is the very smallest of minority of them. But there are some that not only are going to become a worse version of themselves, but they could become dangerous. Whether that is physically dangerous, emotionally. Okay, maybe they dig in so much that they really go after you on a, DV type of relationship, domestic abuse, all those. This many times is what's going to happen because they're not going to be willing to look at anything. And if they're a narcissist to begin with, they're going to definitely want to hunker down and push further on they're good and you're not. And you're going to have to lean back on those boundaries, your support system that you've developed, because that's something we've talked about here multiple times, having that support system. So important because they're the ones who are going to help you through it. They're the ones who are going to help you when you see this stuff starting to happen. So yeah, manipulation is definitely something just in general. It's something I think all of us have seen. All of us have done at some point. All of us have been on the receiving end as well of. And recognizing it, recognizing how it's affecting us so that we can take that upper hand and our control back. So that we can recognize that someone is trying to control our behavior. Because go all the way back to the beginning of what that definition was. Them trying to control and coerce us through their behavior so that it can help them. So if we back ourselves back out of it, recognize what's happening, not allow them to have the control over ourselves. Okay, we do whatever we need to do to make sure, not saying what they're saying is right or wrong, but Allow yourself to do your own research into things. Allow yourself to listen to your own gut. Allow yourself to be the person you're supposed to be. That makes the difference as you move forward. So, as you guys know, this is something I'm trying to, every Friday we talk about a different subject. I mentioned next week I do want to talk about codependence a little bit. It's something I have thought probably harder than anything in the world on is codependency. So I am going to do that, but I also would love to talk about any other potential issues people have. We also do have, I'm going to share real quickly, I have a Discord. It's not massively active, but I'm trying to come up with ways that we can start using it for the mental health type ideas. If someone's working on an issue, come in there where you can be safe. We can create private folders as people spend more time getting to know each other. We can create a higher level folder just for people who've been hanging out there longer. Things like that where we can work on issues because we all have those issues to deal with. I've had those nights I've been sitting at home and something triggers me and I find myself going to the Discord saying, guys, something triggered me tonight and I just need to calm myself down and all that. And people are there for you. So, thank you, Rosaline, for that definition. Thank you so much there for that. So please email me if you have any ideas of a subject you'd like to talk about. Okay, or also for missing Mondays or anything during the week. Okay, Amber Alerts, things like that. Please email me at thelocalmylife@gmail.com so I can kind of get some feedback because I really would appreciate any feedback anyone has. If you guys can today, as we finish this up, go into the comments and put down one thing you learned from today for yourself. Remembering what we talked about last week, that a lot of times we hear things, but to put it into our regular life on a day-to-day basis, it helps to write it down. So if you guys can go into the discussion below this video later and just, what is something that you learned from tonight that you're going to take forward? And as for Cantina, because I know all my buds are going to be asking about Cantina, we will be having Cantina at the top of the hour in about 45 minutes. I am sorry, it's going to be a shortened Cantina tonight. I've got house guests coming in on Wednesday, and my mom and I are like overwhelmed trying to get ready for them right now. So I am going to be doing Cantina, but it's probably going to be limited to about an hour and a half to 2 hours max. After that, if people want to head off, we can have a follow-up Cantina somewhere else, but I will see you guys in about 45 minutes. So thank y'all so much. Rosaline, thanks for all of the stuff that you've been popping into chat. I really appreciate all of that. Everyone who's been popping in, okay, a couple of you guys know what it's like when you see someone's name pop up in chat. That's how I feel. I see every one of the names pop up and I'm like, I got to stop for a second because I got to say hi. And also thank y'all for popping in. For those of you who did not pop up in chat, hey there. Hi to you also. And love you guys. And I will see y'all in just about 45 minutes. Aloha and talk later.